everyone. The meeting of the WSESD on September 9 will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely, and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and the agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting, please alert us by email or text message. We will do our very best to reconnect you. Nevertheless, this meeting will continue as posted. The agenda has been posted. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Amendments to the agenda, yes. All right. Depending upon the length of the meeting early on, I will suggest to the board that we postpone item G as in George, which is a discussion of NEASC. So just to move it along, so not sure. If any board member feels that an item on the consent agenda warrants discussion, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and set aside for discussion. In this way, the consent agenda will be approved in one motion. That request should be made now, or certainly before a vote on the consent agenda. And that would include any amendments to the minutes.
Yeah.
Hi, Tim.
Okay. Now,
Hey, Tim. Hi.
I move that we amend the minutes of the 8/26/25 board meeting as follows. There's 7 different items here. Number 1, delete the noted absence of a school board member whose official term actually begins tonight. That person was not absent last meeting because he was not officially starting as a board member. So 1, delete the noted absence of a school board member. 2, on page 3, first line, change TS to TM.
Okay, and let's TS to TM, right? Meaning Tim Maciel.
Right.
Top of page 3.
Number 3, on page 3, change JE to JF.
And that would, I assume, be under Student Advisory Committee.
Right.
So, Jocelyn Fritz, right?
Right. Number 4, bottom of page 3, change teacher panorama survey to teacher perception of students survey, TPOS, and add discussion of how FERPA may or may not limit board access to complete survey results. PT will follow up. Number 5, discussion of spring panorama school survey, low favorable response rate in grades 6 through 12. Add, quote, discussion of spring panorama school climate survey, low favorable response rate in grades 6 through 12, to item asking, how well do students follow the rules of your school? Request for further inquiry, perhaps at SAC. Number 6, add discussion of timely release of survey data to the board, MS explained out of respect to principals, there would always be a delay in release to the board and public. BT suggested that development of a board admin calendar with survey dates may help resolve the issue. And number 8, question regarding gauging teacher morale was raised. RN suggested closer look at teacher exit interviews. DS said she would follow up. And last, at bottom of page 3, add link to BCTV recording, preferably direct link to the discussion. End of motion.
Seconded.
Is there discussion? I would like to raise a concern about the last item, which is adding a link to BCTV recording, which is simple enough to do. It becomes much more involved to add a direct link to the discussion. That means that someone has to go into the recording and find the position where the discussion all begins. I would also suggest even adding a link to BCTV. I'm not really sure it is necessary. BCTV is listed in every section where minutes are presented, and we frequently, in the minutes, or rather the minutes frequently state, especially when we're dealing with issues of finance, refer to the recording for full discussion. So I'm not sure that that's necessary for that detail, just it says BCTV. I would think that's sufficient. So that would be my amendment to the motion.
Yeah, I would argue that for community and staff and everybody's engagement, to make it as easy as possible for them to go into the BCTV recording and find the discussion to listen to it. Because very few of us have the patience to go through a 3-hour recording and look for the item that you want. I'm not sure how difficult it would be to have a direct link to the discussion in BCTV.
Ruby.
I tend to agree with Deborah on this one when it pertains to the minutes. As you know, I don't think that that's the right place for that type of reference. I understand though, and I do think that the Communications Council posts to social media, posts links to recordings and minutes, and in those moments, if there's something we as a board want to elevate or engage the public, I think that's the type of vehicle for posting a link that is queued up to a certain area. But I think that our meetings are voluminous, and there are some people who are interested in that and some people who are desperately interested in like our 1.65, 25, whatever. But I think that the minutes are, we should be not including. But that's the only item that I would say doesn't make sense. So I would support that amendment.
Okay, any other discussion about this?
Just one more.
I know, Tim?
Oh, just one more statement. We know that Vermont's open meeting law requires that minutes give a true indication of the business of the meeting. I would say as a compromise, if we don't have a direct link to the recording, then we be a little extra careful to describe what happened and not just see the recording, but give a 1 or 2 sentence synopsis of what the gist of the discussion was about.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Ann?
Is it specifically about the panorama data?
No, it's just general.
Okay, because on the VCTV webpage, it's broken down by minute as to what topics we were discussing. Like, there's literally a list.
Oh, I know.
you know.
Well, yeah, but still, yeah.
Okay, but I think that's good information for everyone beyond any one board member's awareness of that. Right, so thank you, Ann. Any other discussion on this point? All right, Robert's Rules calls for a vote on the amendment, is that correct, or is that right? Yes, a vote on the amendment. Any other discussion on the amendment itself? All right, all those in favor of the amendment, which is that there is no need to include a direct link to BCTV or the specific point of discussion.
Or just remove number 6 or whatever.
I'm sorry, thank you very much. Remove number 7 from that. Is it 7 or what number is it, Tim? It's the last one on your list.
It's 7.
It's number 7. Remove number 7 on the list. Okay, that's the amendment. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Any abstentions? All right, one opposed, the ayes have it, that is removed from the list. We're going back to the original motion at this point. Any discussion on the remaining 6 points on the motion?
There are 7 points because there are 8 total.
Oh, so sorry, 8 total.
Yeah.
The 7 points. Any discussion? Ruby?
I appreciate your attention to detail, thank you. That's all I got.
Oh, okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much, thank you. The minutes are corrected as per the motion. Anything else having to do with the consent agenda? All right, moving on to student matters. Any comment, please, student matters? Can you pass this down to Riley, please, just so that you have it? Thank you. Riley, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Okay, please identify yourself and your town.
I'm Riley Bristol. I'm from Demerston, and I'm a student representative. Willow and I, the other student representative, wanted to just comment on the new cell phone policy here in BUHS. Not really too much to say in general, besides some quotes we have. I won't read them all, but the gist is we're pretty mixed so far, but overall I think that it's going pretty well. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, that's good news, thank you. Any other comments from students? I don't see any hands online. Okay, thank you. Public comment on non-agenda items. This is a time for the board to listen and to take notes. It is not a time for the board to respond to comments or to engage in dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. Yes, I thank you, I do see. Yes, thank you, Eileen. Please state your name and your town.
My name is Curtis Clough. I'm the president of Teamsters Local 597. I reside in Lebanon. Our office is in Williston, and we cover the whole state of Vermont. I'm just here because of what's happened over the last 2 to 3 weeks. During our negotiations with Beacon Mobility, FM Kosmeskis, the local transit provider, I'd like to speak briefly and update people on the status of negotiations. We came before the board this spring with concerns. We feel like those were justified. Since they have lifted the lockout, the drivers and monitors did return to work. As far as I can tell, all but 3 of them returned to work. Those 3, I think, never intended to come back after the summer anyway. That was at our request that everyone not strike and return to work when the lockout was lifted. I will say Beacon Mobility has come back to the table with us, which, we're hopeful about. Currently, we are about $4,000 apart in our economic items over the course of about 5 years, which I consider to be much closer than we were a short time ago. We are also very far apart on a very important item. It's very important to the Teamsters, and it has been in the contract for a very long time. We had an agreement with the employer early in negotiations on this item, but unfortunately they have withdrawn their agreement to that item. Otherwise, I would say we're fairly close to an agreement with Beacon Mobility that will hopefully settle a contract for 5 years, but we do not have an agreement in place yet.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other comments from the public on non-agenda items? Please state your name and your town, please.
My name is Eileen Hayes-Arama. My daughter is a recent graduate and I work here in Brattleboro. And my comment is in regards to the portrait of a graduate. A gentle hiker on the Vermont Long Trail a ways north of here told me that the Jews were responsible for the Atlantic slave trade, as it had been the Jews that had owned and operated all the ships. He did not deny the Holocaust. A teacher in the school where I work referenced generational trauma from the Holocaust as a significant reason that she believes that Israelis are committing the war crimes and crimes against humanity of genocide and apartheid. A student reported to me that they knew why the author-creator of Mouse used mice to depict Jews. Quote, Jews are funny looking and have big noses, unquote. Each of these statements references the propaganda of the Nazis. 98%. 98% of Europeans, both Eastern and Western, is the approximate representation of those who did not stand up for the Jews in the lead up to the Holocaust. I base this on reports that only 1 to 2% of upstanders can be verified. 98% either did nothing, whether they believed or didn't, or worse, they helped the Nazis gather the Jews for death. I have been told that Intifada doesn't mean what I know it means. I have been told that I don't know what jihad means. I have been asked why I continued to show up and speak in support of changes to our system of education that does not require Holocaust history and yet mandates a complex graphic novel like Mouse for 8th graders. Context provided by our English teachers. Resilience is one of the criteria for our portrait of a graduate. Our students demonstrate resilience every day. How can we do the same in order to model all the ways in which resilience can manifest? I will be at Pliny Park on Monday afternoons during the school year to offer conversation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comment from the public on non-agenda items? Okay, I don't see any hands up. Okay, so we are moving on to board matters. The first item, board matters, is in marked parking lot. Matt Chibley is not here right now.
He is online.
Oh,
You know
he-
what? I don't know that I need him. Now we the co-host, now we can talk.
Okay, great. All right, Matt, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We certainly can. Thank you. So would you like to address the issue entitled parking lot on the agenda?
Yeah, I would love to propose to the board and like to make the following motion that I include a section in the minutes going forward, starting tonight, that is to be dubbed the parking lot. This section would be primarily for us to, as a board, maintain knowledge of current items that we're working on or that have yet to be addressed or are in partial work but not yet completed. So it's really meant to be a space for us to be able to identify an issue, perhaps an attached board member to that issue, and be able to keep track of it. It wouldn't guarantee that it would become part of any subsequent agenda. That's still for our chair and leadership to determine. But I'd love to, as your clerk, be able to keep track of these in a more transparent and efficient way. So if I could make a motion that going forward, we would include the parking lot in the minutes, I'd appreciate that.
Second.
We have a second to that motion. Thank you. Discussion? Ruby?
This is really more of a question. I think a parking lot's a great idea. I think in my mind, the minutes weren't the right place for it, and either a freestanding document or at the bottom of the agenda where we kind of organize tools anyway in terms of like running through our meeting. That seems more appropriate. I say that in part because having done board administrative work for many years, parking lots can become like pretty active, like deep. And if things carry from meeting to meeting, it can get complicated if those are also incorporated in the minutes when you're referring to the parking lot. So that would be my suggestion, would be to put it not in the minutes, but have it be at the bottom of the warned agenda, so that it's a tool rather than a reference.
Other discussion? Jocelyn?
I think if we put it at the bottom of the agenda, it's gonna look like it's business we're taking up in that agenda. Which it's not a guarantee that to be taken up in subsequent agendas, so I think being that it's discussion we had, it should be with the minutes.
Other comment?
I think if the additions get too unwieldy, so if we've got 3 months worth of parking lot stuff at the bottom, we could change our minds and make a separate document, put a link on the website, something like that.
So, Anne, are you suggesting that it stay on the minutes?
For the time being, if it grows unwieldy, I think we should revisit that and maybe do it a different way.
I'm very comfortable with that. I am concerned about it being on the agenda, that the implication is this is being taken up at this time. So, okay, further discussion? All right, so we have a motion that parking lot is presented on the minutes to be assessed in the future. All right, any further discussion? All right, we're bringing it to a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much, Matt, thank you. We are up to Leadership Council updates. I notice agendas are coming out for Leadership Council meetings coming up this week, next week. This was presented by a board member, a need to review board member responsibilities as presented in the policy H7 Leadership Councils. I've also included a link to Articles of Agreement, and it's Article 15. Discussion?
I don't understand the issue.
So, Tim, this was an issue that you specifically raised. Well, yes, on one of the recordings that I listened to, in which you asked that as we move into leadership councils and consider the orientation, that we very specifically discuss board member responsibilities as they relate to leadership councils. I'm quoting you.
Thank you for the refresher. And this is good because it came up, this topic came up briefly at the BAM's Leadership Council, which was a terrific meeting. But if you look at the policy, it lists a lot of responsibilities, directions that a leadership council can go to. I haven't got that policy with me now, but there's.
It's attached to this agenda. It is attached on the agenda.
Okay, but there's like 15 different responsibilities. Coming from BAM's chair, former chair, and from me, it's just not clear, I think, to board reps, to leadership councils, which ones should a leadership council focus on. There's just too much. We can't change the policy because it was an article voted on by the people, the voters. But we can agree on where our focus should be.
I don't know, are we ready to discuss this? I did attach it for discussion today, so I don't want to delve into this if board members are not prepared to discuss this. I'm just going to say the business of the council, on page 2 of this policy, H7, and it says leadership council responsibilities will be guided by council interest and may include. And then there are a series of bullets. And I know, Tim, you were on the leadership council at the time that we were discussing this, and I think our use of language may include. I really do think it's up to the individual leadership councils to determine overall direction. Ruby, you have your hand up.
I do.
Yes.
So I was the chair of the leadership council at the beginning of this district's existence, and remember when leadership councils were first formed, there was lots of discussion around this particular point. And I do think, I agree with what Deborah's saying, that the spirit of the policy was to not kind of tie down each school to do something that wasn't in keeping with the spirit of what they wanted to do. So for example, some leadership councils, some schools may lean on the leadership councils to do budget development heavily, and then others might not as much. And that's okay. And so what I have experienced in Putney, as both as the chair on the leadership council and also as a community member, is at the beginning of the school year, kind of going back to that policy and looking at it and saying, what is important here? What are the interests of this leadership council? And it isn't the same every year. It changes. So as much as I appreciate this suggestion, I have come over the years to appreciate the flexibility that resides in this policy. And I think that what really I've heard, and this goes back to the leadership council training thing that happened, orientation thing. I think that what would be good is if we hear, as a board, if we hear a request from leadership councils for more direction, it's on us to, you know, do we have a project or do we have a question? Do we want an engagement point with our community? Utilize those leadership councils and send it out to them. So far, we haven't exactly organized ourselves in that way, and we'll be talking about board goals later. Maybe there's a way in which, once we kind of set some board goals, maybe there's a way in which we can engage leadership councils, but it doesn't feel to me like this board meeting is the right moment to be considering this change. You know, maybe there's a time when the policy committee, an amendment committee, is going to be reviewing the H7, but it doesn't feel, it feels like an appropriate policy from my perspective.
Yeah, I don't think we're questioning the essence of the policy itself, and this was recently reviewed by the Leadership Council. I am looking at the bullets, and I'm thinking about this section of the minutes, of the agenda. Leadership Council updates, and I know that, for an example, an initiative, as I look at Julianne Egan, an initiative, a theme from last year having to do with greater awareness of LGBTQ+, and engagement with families and children that I believe will be continued this year. That was reported back to this board, to everyone who's listening. So ideas are picked up in that way from one leadership council to another. Tim, I just saw your hand up.
Well, yeah, one of the responsibilities, for example, is providing input in hiring processes, or communicating expectations communicating learning needs and progress. What I'm saying is the board shouldn't be reticent in suggesting activities, issues to leadership councils to engage in. It shouldn't just be whatever the leadership council wants, but at times the board can direct questions to leadership councils.
I don't think there's any debate about that. I think communication goes both ways. So I don't know that, do we need to, should we stay on this topic or no? No. Tim? No.
No.
No, okay. All right. But as I read the policy, I do think it needs to bounce back to the policy committee, because I have a little confusion about wording about open meeting law at the bottom of the page when I was reading it closely today. So again, the rotation of policies going through the policy committee. I just saw your hand up again, Tim.
Yeah, this was voted by the voters. It's an article, so it really can't change until the voters change it.
It's not a change. It was an addition that the policy committee made having to do with open meeting law. And I do believe in the last 2 years, open meeting law has changed. So I'm referring very specifically to legislative statute that we put in having to do with having a physical location, a recording, all of those components. So that's why it needs to bounce back in my reading of the policy. Okay, anything else about leadership councils? All right, moving on. Board subcommittees. Any updates on board subcommittees? All right, just an update from policy. Policy is not meeting tomorrow. We're on that schedule, I believe the second and the fourth Wednesday of the month, but we have been squeezed out of the central office because of an audit that is taking place, and every available space there is taken. So we will meet next week and 2 consecutive weeks in a row. The audit is a good thing. That was not a criticism. Any other board subcommittee updates? Ruby?
So this is a finance committee update. There will be a fiscal report, so this isn't necessarily referring to that. But I did want to highlight, there was a question that was raised in the last board meeting related to a transaction that was directed by the board to contribute to the Rural Schools Community Alliance. So I wanted to kind of acknowledge that question here. It was raised in non-agenda items, so we didn't act on it or really discuss it, but we did discuss it in the Finance Committee meeting, and we were able to ask questions about it, and Frank was very thorough in helping us understand how to find things, how to understand the codes. So the short story is that there were two transactions, two contributions from the board to the Rural Schools Community Alliance that were voted on and directed by this body. And they came out of a line item that is related to professional fees, that is under the section of the board of the budget that is that's maintained by and managed by the board. So the board of directors section of the budget. But it came out of a line item that was specific to professional fees, and it was voted on by this board to support the work that was of the Rural Schools Community Alliance, and that work was, there is very clear kind of action by this board to talk about how and why we are supporting that work, and so I would encourage anyone who has concerns about where that decision came from to refer back to the minutes and also to the recordings of those minutes. I don't actually have at my fingertips what the dates were. I'm so sorry about that, of what those meetings were, and I can find that and bring it. Or if anyone is interested in that, reach out to me and I can give those specifics to them. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other committee updates? Okay, any supervisory union updates? No,
We're here tomorrow.
we're here tomorrow. We meet tomorrow, 5 o'clock in this room, supervisory union. Okay. We are up to letter D, which is a review of the board's annual commitment to the VSBA. And whether we should continue with our relationship, whether we should register for the annual conference. Registration is ongoing right now for that conference, which is the end of October. It's taking place in Burlington this year. There is a regional meeting coming up on September 30th. So I think it's rather pressing that we come to some kind of a decision. Discussion. Matt Chigley.
I am for maintaining our enrollment with the VSBA, although there have been many times I think we have not aligned with them and we've been frustrated. I think our voice is still needed at the table, and if we disengage with them, I don't know that we'll have as much of a voice there. So I would still say we show up and we make our voices heard.
Other discussion? Mark Spino.
Yeah, I'll just share with the board and the community that it is my intention to once again attend the conference in October. in the last few years. There's been a handful of board members that have attended that conference alongside me, and I've appreciated that experience. Just leave it there.
Yeah, we've been a serious cohort at that conference, definitely taken up a dinner table. And I think the conference the last 2 years has been worthwhile. Workshops have been engaging and interesting and informative. One of my concerns, one of the issues about the VSBA, and we rely on the VSBA for notices concerning policies coming out of the legislature, for significant revisions to policies, some of which are legal, some of which are at the discretion of the given district. I reached out to 2 districts who one has withdrawn from the VSBA, one has put their membership on hold. I did hear back from one. Very specifically, my question was concerning policies. And one district responded to say that they stay up to date with policies. The work is now being done by the superintendent, working with the district's legal counsel, as well as with regional superintendents, regarding updated or any and all recommended policy revisions. That is a considerable workload for superintendents, as well as for our legal counsel. That would be, I think, a heavy dollar amount to stay current with policies. Brian Reamer.
Thank you. As I recall, our initial concern about this was that we were finding that the VSBA wasn't really representing some of our points of view, and that their responses to our letters were not as specific as we were hoping. And I see by the correspondence that people have had communication. There have been not only letters, but also apparently some Zoom calls and maybe some other phone calls and so forth. So I'd like to hear from those folks around the room here who have had conversations with them since. What kind of sense do you have that they are more or maybe less in tune to where we're coming from, more or less inclined to listen when we bring up something in the future? Do we have a sense that they're willing to take us seriously and include us as partners, or not?
Jocelyn.
It may answer to a point. They were interested in someone from our general area joining the VSBA board, but we have to be a member to do so.
To be a regional representative.
Yeah.
Right, to be a regional representative, because Dan MacArthur is stepping away. Right. So, Tim?
On Thursday, I'll be defending the resolution that we sent to VSBA some time ago. Part of that resolution reads, "Be it resolved that the Vermont School Boards Association shall vigorously oppose any legislation that forces the consolidation of school districts and to makes it easier to close small schools against the will of the community." Unfortunately, I'll defend this resolution on Thursday, but the final decision won't be made whether to accept this resolution or not until the conference. So we just don't know where the VSBA stands, but I would argue that if the VSBA cannot defend our resolution, then we should think about leaving well, not renewing or just ending our relationship.
I think that there have been several districts, supervisory unions that have presented similar resolutions to the VSBA this year. We are not the only one by far. So other comment?
I mean,
Yes, Tim.
I mean, to me, if the VSBA can't vigorously defend the SU option over the SD option, then it's not defending our very right as a school board to continue existing. Because our school board would be dissolved if the legislature votes to go with an SD consolidation instead of an SU.
I need, at one point of information, SD is thrown out there. We are an SD board, which is school district. The SD that you're referring to is something very different. You're referring to a supervisory district, which is also referred to as an SD. I just want to untangle this web. And the distinction between SD, can you clarify that, please, between a supervisory district and a supervisory union?
Oh, that's, sure, that's discussed as well as I can in that press release that I wrote. But basically, we know what an SU is. It's an administrative entity that right now consists of Vernon, two districts, Vernon and the WSESD, whereas a school district is the WSESD, which has oversight of 10 schools in our district. So one really has oversight of schools as a primary function. The other is administrative in function.
Can I want to clarify this because we are an SD, we are a school district, and an SD versus SU, meaning a supervisory district, is very different from our district, which oversees 10 schools. A supervisory district, referred to as an SD, is a district that incorporates transportation, food services, special education, curriculum and assessment, and does everything that the SU does. The SU does it for multiple districts. The SD, supervisory district, does it for its own entity. We are not an SD with that designation. I think this SD term is really unfortunate. I think it confuses the best of us as we try to describe this. And my understanding of a supervisory district, and I'm looking at Tim for a clarification of this, is that if the state were to be reorganized as SDs, meaning supervisory districts, we will lose our articles of agreement, we will lose our individual district school boards, we will become a very different entity. And it is then called wards, voting wards. Jocelyn?
We also lose our local budgeting.
And we lose our control over local budgets, meaning towns having control over the budget. So we lose local control under a supervisory union. So I really, I'm sorry, as a supervisory district, right. And so I'm gonna ask that we stay away from the acronyms and say the language out loud. I just made a mistake, right. Brian?
So back to the question of should we commit to the
Yes.
Vermont School Board Association. I would, based upon what Matt has said, that we cannot really influence things if we're not part of the group. and what Mark has said in terms of professional development opportunities, I would be in favor of renewing our commitment at this time. Always holding forth what Tim is saying, if we can't hold their feet to the fire, or if we feel like we're not being represented, then that means it's the time for review of that commitment.
So, any further discussion? So what says the board at this point? Ruby?
I move that we continue our relationship with RSC, or with the VSBA.
Second.
Second.
We've got a second. Any discussion? VSBA, Vermont School Board Association, just for the sake of the recording. Thank you. Okay. It's seconded. Any discussion? Okay. And the motion, can we just hear it one more time, please?
Yeah, that the board remain with the VSBA.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
I also abstain.
Okay, we have 2 abstentions. The ayes have it. Okay, thank you. Next point on the agenda. All right, update on legislative issues related to education. Tim and Jocelyn.
So tomorrow, 9:30 to 3:30, the districting task force is meeting. Some information that's passed through the Rural School Association, that there's a rubric that they've developed, and they're gonna test a couple of different maps against it starting tomorrow to see how the idea of their maps are matching up to the rubric of what should be. So kind of a ideal of what they want versus on the ground what we have currently. And also, since it was relevant to our discussions, the WNESU has written in as well. This was on the 2nd, or no, the 4th.
WS.
The Windham Northeast
Northeast.
Supervisory Union
Thank you.
has written in that they would prefer the supervisory union method going forward.
Right.
And that they are also, as we are, looking to talk to contiguous districts and SUs, supervisory unions, to see about building a connection and moving forward.
Right. Thank you.
And I'll add one interesting development. The task force seems very interested in CTEs, career and technical education centers, which we have right here. There are, depending on how you count, there's either 15 or 17 career and technical centers in Vermont. And so they're looking at, would that be a possible configuration of a governing body just to use the geographical layout of CTEs. Interesting development. But I will say that things are really happening fast. A lot of different districts are sending in resolutions for a supervisory union model. And as Jocelyn said, the task force is really playing around with the map and looking at the viability of different configurations and looking at a rubric to measure the viability of different configurations. Sometimes it's ridiculous because people point out that you can't have this district joined with this district because there's no road between the two. But they're really moving fast as they have to because they have to make a decision by December or November 20th.
Okay. Ruby?
Thank you, Tim and Jocelyn, for keeping your eye on this. I really so appreciate your updates. I'm wondering if in what you're hearing, we hear a lot about the SU or the supervisory union model, and we hear a lot of support from other boards. We ourselves as our board have kind of aligned ourselves with that in terms of the Rural School Community Alliance stuff. But I'm wondering if you are hearing anything, or if there's any conversation of a different perspective. Someone putting forward something different around the benefit of the supervisory district. Is there anything you can say about that?
There have been some letters that are in the public documentation from the task force that some of the districts and SUs have said that they would prefer a larger supervisory district as opposed to the supervisory union. Some opinions are that they're more efficient if it's just a district as opposed to the union.
Okay, any other updates?
Just one note.
Sure, absolutely.
On Friday, the 19th at 1 o'clock, I believe, the RSCA, the Rural Schools Community Alliance, will be hosting a discussion only for superintendents across the state. So that'll be an interesting conversation, I think.
Anything else? Ruby?
Is our superintendent invited to that, or are you planning on going, or?
I did forward you an email,
Yeah.
right, Mark? You did get it?
Right now, I haven't. I'm sure it'll be ongoing.
Okay. We are going to take a look at the press release. Entitled, "What We Will Lose Unless You Speak Up Now." That's the title of it. Yes. All right. Has everyone had a chance to look at it? Okay, it's linked to the agenda under letter E, as in elephant.
As I understand the issue, the choice is either the whole board does not sign it, or just some of us choose to sign it, or not. Really, we hope it influences the public to contact their legislators, but that's the choice.
Okay. Discussion? Ruby?
I am of the opinion that we should not do this press release. In my opinion, this is it's an op-ed, it's an opinion piece. I do not feel that each one of us signing on to something that I just don't, I personally don't necessarily agree with every line of that opinion piece, and putting my name to it is not something I think is wise. So from my perspective, if this board votes, I will be voting not to put forward this press release. If the board votes to do it, the board's the board's name would be on that, and I would not want individual names to be identified. That's just where I stand.
So the distinction you're making is that if the board, if it becomes a motion and we vote, then we are a unified board and it's signed off by the board. If it's individualized names, then your name would not be included.
That is correct.
That's correct,
Yes.
okay, all right. Jessica,
I'd like to hear more, so maybe we'll talk about this at a later agenda item, but I would like to hear more about kind of the work that we want to do as a board to engage the community before coming out with such a strong piece like this, because something I feel like I'm missing is the local community voice. I haven't heard from many folks aside from the forum that we had in February, so I'd like to hear more from the community before we come out with this, is my thinking.
okay. Other thoughts? Should we circle back to it?
In a similar vein, Jess, the implications of redistricting are huge. I would personally love to make sure that we're in open communication with our administration as well and be aligned on next steps. I don't know that we're there yet. I personally don't feel like we've had much discussion with administration yet. So I'd like for us to be standing sure-footed together.
Kim,
I have to agree with Ruby that I do see this that it reads more as an op-ed piece than as a press release. And that makes it a lot more it's much more different in terms of support, just because it does not read as a press release.
Tim?
Yeah, so I hear it's fine that the board doesn't want to sign on to it. Since I drafted this, I'll just send it under my name and hope that it has some positive impact.
And you'll send it as
mine, not speaking to the board.
okay, and therefore it's not a press release,
No,
it would be an op-ed piece.
right.
It would be an op-ed piece, okay. Mhm.
And I encourage everybody to get together with Jessica and come together with a.
Just
plan.
talk a little bit louder, you encourage,
I would encourage all the board members to follow Jessica's lead and come up with a communication plan for the public. The stakes are too high.
okay.
I just have a question.
Yes, Brian.
Maybe Tim can answer, or maybe others can answer this too, but is it your impression that the legislature and the recommendations of all the committees working on this redistricting are going to come up with either one or the other for the whole state? So there won't be some areas that are supervisory unions and others that are supervisory districts. It will all be either one or the other for the whole state?
That's a really good question. Jocelyn, what do you think?
I don't know. They haven't really said one way or the other, like if they would have a mixed version of things.
But Act 73 states pretty unequivocally that they're charged with coming up with 3 models, one which has to be a supervisory union model, the other has to be a supervisory district model.
And one of those 3 will then be adopted by the legislature, so it's comprehensive.
But Act 73 doesn't explicitly give them the option of parts of the state be this way, parts of the state be that way. Interesting.
That's
It sounds like a proposal to secede. I didn't say that. I retract that. Sorry. I just said that. Ann,
Just briefly, you said that one of these will be adopted by our legislature. one of these does not have to be adopted by our legislature. So anybody within the sound of my voice, I urge you to contact your legislators. Thank you.
Right, we
And
really,
possibly their opponents.
and possibly what?
Their opponents.
Okay, we are moving on. Right, we are moving on. The next item says, develop a plan for a community forum with legislators to ensure transparency, accuracy, and urgency. I think that goes to Jessica's point, to hear from stakeholders. And I do think that this last item overflows into a discussion about board goals. Because one of the board goals, I do believe, is, one of the proposed board goals is having greater engagement with stakeholders. So I think that is part of this. I am concerned about the community's awareness of the stakes of Act 73. And in casual conversations with individuals, parents, non-parents, there's just, oh, I heard something about that. That's the gist of what I get, rather than an awareness of really how dramatic this change will be.
Or could be.
I'm sorry,
Or could be.
or could be, yes. I think will be, I think it will be, there is change that's coming our way for sure. So, should we move on to letter F at this point and see where we go? Okay, board goals. So this is, thank you to Jessica and Ruby and Kim and Tim for putting together these goals and the related summaries. Would you like to step us through this?
Sure. If anyone else wants to, they can. All right, so as Deborah said, we met and came up with 3 proposed goals for the board to work on over different timelines. So if you refer to the document linked in the agenda, we created 1-sentence overviews to help people quickly grab and digest. So the first one is to enhance oversight of the prevention of hazing, harassment, and bullying. The second is to understand and implement district quality standards and educational quality standards. And the third is to improve two-way communication and engagement with stakeholders, which is what we kind of referenced a bit earlier. And so I won't read through the whole document because it's a bit lengthy, but we tried to build around these summaries SMART goals, so looking at objectives and strategies and tactics on how to achieve these. They are time-bound, and we did try to tie what we were working on closely with the CIP goals of the district so that we're not duplicating efforts and that it is a collaborative. So assuming everyone has had a chance to look at them, I would like to open it up for some discussion and see what folks think about it, with the possibility of kind of adopting these as our goals tonight, or we could edit them with feedback and move on from there.
Okay, so there are 3 distinct goals. I'm going to suggest that we organize the discussion around each one separately. The first one being HHB, hazing, harassment, and bullying. And this one ties in very specifically to the continuous improvement plan as presented in June. And it has everything to do with being a part of a committee to review climate measurement tools and survey response rates. This also ties into a request from the board to administration to meet in executive session in much the same way we did with restraint and seclusion, to have a sense of data across school sites by ages and by specific type of hazing, harassment, bullying. It's not just one category. So I know that's very much in the works. And my recall of this summary is that this, we would return to this data over the course of the year. Am I correct? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it was semi-annually.
Right, I do believe I think I saw that, right. Okay. Discussion about that? Are we comfortable with it as it reads? I think it's very specific. Ruby?
I would just like to say that I think, in my opinion, this is a topic that has come up in a really pervasive way over many months, and we hear from students, we hear from stakeholders, we hear from people who work in the district that there's work happening, it's important, and there's a national trends that are impacting us. And so I think our district is paying attention and is doing stuff. And we as a board, in terms of setting our goals and directing our work, we thought hard about what that would mean, because we as a board are not boots on the ground administering the programs that are trying to have an impact, but we are responsible for making sure that, we do have some oversight, we do understand it. So that's what I think the nature of the goal is, and I think it would really behoove us to accept this particular one.
This is a suggestion as a board member, that we take each of these goals as separate entities, with a motion perhaps, and then we can move on to the next one. Does that make sense? Tim?
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and when we're talking about the goals, we're also talking about the objectives, the strategies, and the tactics, correct?
Okay, just wait 1 second. What would you like me to do?
This is a copy to put into, copy of what I said to put into the minutes.
Okay, so I'm gonna pass it down to Matt
Thank you.
Chidley. Thank you, Eileen, thank you.
Thanks, have a good day.
Bye-bye. I'm sorry, Tim, what did you say?
When we're talking about the goal, we're also talking about the objectives, the strategies, and the tactics.
All right, I'm talking about the breakdown of the goal. Yes, because a one-liner doesn't do it for me. It
Of
says,
course.
right. Mm-hmm. So, Matt,
One more thing, does administration, I'd love to query administration see any barriers to being able to collaborate on this goal specifically?
No, not at all.
Kim,
I move we accept goal number 1 for the WSESD board, prevention of hazing, harassment, and bullying.
Second.
okay, we've got a second. Discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We've got hazing, harassment, and bullying as a board goal added to the CIP goals. That's my understanding. Thank you. At this point, it is 7:16. I would like to take a break. Yes.
Well, I just didn't understand what the last thing you said was.
I said it is a board goal, and as such, it is incorporated into the CIP goals, the continuous improvement plan goals. And did I just add a
I think it's related, but I don't know because the CIP are submitted to the state. I don't think that it's the same. But
thank you.
I
Thank-
just wanted to
No,
clarify.
thank you very much, thank you. Okay, it is a board goal related to the CIP goals. Thank you for clarification on that wording. And with that, we will take a break and we will come back at 7:25. We've come back from our break. Something has been brought to my attention, so just a moment before we go back to board goals. Ruby?
I was, during the break, I thought about it and spoke to Deborah and realized that in the past, we made a commitment to re-up with the VSBA, but there's also a conference, and I think that it'd be helpful, I believe, for central office who's going to make reservations and things like that, to know who is interested or who is willing to attend. So my understanding is that this is a one-day conference now. There is an event on the Wednesday prior, which I think is the 12th, or I can't remember the date.
It's
I think it's in the 20s, isn't it?
it's actually, I think, organized the same way it was last year with
It is October 29th and October 30th.
yeah.
The 29th is 3 to 8 p.m. Board officer, superintendent training and banquet. And 30th is annual conference for
Yeah.
all board members.
So it's similar to last year.
And I just want to add that coming up on the 29th is important. It's networking and it's also student engagement. So,
Though it sounds to me that the dinner on the 29th is for board leadership and district
it's for all of
leadership.
us. I think it's for all of us. I don't think we need to make that distinction. Nobody's checking a badge as you walk in. And it is for all of us. It's engagement, it's networking,
Okay.
so I see it as starting on the 29th, but certainly the 30th, your point well taken.
Got it. So I guess I have gone to 2 of these conferences. I've seen a very serious benefit to going with a group of us, and so I would encourage as many people as possible to go. It is a whole day, a whole night, but it's only one full day, which it used to be 2. So I personally am able to go and would be interested in going, although I do need help with transportation because I have one car in my family, so there's that. But I think it would be helpful to know who else is interested. We don't necessarily need to do it right now, but it could be by email, but I think that it really needs to happen soon so that hotels can be made and other things.
Okay, let's do it to the extent that we can. Let's have just a sense of tonight. Ruby, yes. Deborah, yes.
I'm interested, but it's tentative. I have to check my.
Okay,
several
we've got Jessica with a question mark. Anybody else with a question mark?
I'm also a question mark.
Okay, Colleen with a question mark. Did I see?
I'm not going to be available on those 2 days.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm
Yes,
a question mark.
you're a question mark. Okay, Kim is a question mark. Okay.
I have a question mark.
Who else is a question mark? Tim? Everybody's a question mark. Okay. Yes.
I'd like to, I have to seek prior authorization from my CEO. I'm a question mark.
You are your CEO, aren't you? That's what. Okay, we've got, Ruby, you've got to run.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm going. Okay, that's easy enough, and I definitely prefer driving long distance with a companion. It just is easier. Okay. Great.
Does central office need, is there a date by which it would be helpful to
Yeah,
corral us?
appreciate the question. So given the decisions made tonight, I'll ask Mohart to send an email to every board member
Right.
offering an invitation, and then based on who can confirm whether they will want to attend or not, then we'll begin arrangements as soon as we can.
All right. I definitely would like to go up on the 29th. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we're done. That's it. We're done. The rest of you, figure it out. All right. Back to board goals. All right. So we're up to the second board goal. Understand and implement district quality standards and educational quality standards. Ruby.
So this particular board goal, I think, stems from, that this is another thing that keeps coming up and keeps hitting the board in terms of over the past few months. And it is, changes have happened and are in place that we as a board need to understand. And so the idea of this board is committing ourselves to understanding fully what the DQS and the EQS changes are. So that's kind of the spirit of where that board goal comes from.
In light of tonight's meeting, I was looking over my correspondence with the VSBA on precisely these two items, and it's we're waiting for the AOE, so I haven't been in touch with them in a while. Okay, discussion about this goal? Kim?
I'll make motion that we accept goal number 2, district quality standards and educational quality standards as the second board goal for the WSESD.
Second. Discussion. Okay, my question about this as a goal is, why is it a goal when it's actually a requirement coming from the state, even though the state may not be up to date with what they're looking for, or they are, it's, Ruby.
I think I just wanted to point us to the goal summary, where it says understand and implement district quality standards and education quality standards. So I think that those verbs
Yes.
of understanding that and then implementing it, but the understanding is really the important one, and the reason I think that this is a board goal.
Right.
And I get that when we are we're shortening it, it becomes just a reference to the district quality standards and the education quality standards, but in reality, this is a goal so that we can really fully understand it.
And as I look at verbs under objectives, the first one says read, understand, and or participate in relevant training, right? Tim?
I wonder if I can query the curriculum coordinator, Brent?
Sure.
You've been to a lot of workshops, I understand, about the DQE and EQE. what are your thoughts on this?
I participated in a series of workshops last year offered by the Vermont Principals Association, the VPA, and it was related specifically to the ed quality standards, not the DQS. It was great. And they're re-offering the training this year. There was opportunities to dig into different portions of the EQS to take time to really digest and better understand those related to the school. And then each of those trainings was infused with the why behind it related to the IRIS standards and the focus on equity within the EQS. So I thought it was great.
Great. And I apologize, I called you curriculum coordinator, you're curriculum
It's
director.
great. That training is open to, definitely teachers, administrators, and school board members, so I'm happy, Deborah, to forward the information to you if you want to pass it along.
Sure. Or you could forward it to the entire board,
Okay.
which would be great. Thank you. Okay, other discussion about this second potential goal? I am looking at some of the deadlines on here, one being November 1, 2025, and October 1, 2025. Under tactics, board goals task force to create a list of important resources, training sessions and webinars, and also alert the board of new trainings by October 1, 2025. Are you in gear to do that as a task force by October 1, 2025?
I mean, it is the task, you mean the board goals task force?
It says board goals task force under tactics, item number 2.
Yeah, but I was on I helped create this. I think that what that would mean is the board goals task force has to be reestablished. Like, I think that our task was creating these board goals, and certainly we can continue, but we need to be a little bit more deliberate in terms of what is the intention.
Oh, so these dates are thrown out for some other entity to
Some of them,
comply
I
with?
think this was like an attempt to get everything down on paper.
Right.
All open for discussion, we can move dates around, it doesn't have to be adopted as is, we could have changes to it.
Okay.
I think that one is so tight because all of these things exist, it's just a matter of like getting them into one place so that board members who haven't gotten up to speed can go and look and just easily
Right.
get there.
Other comment about this?
I just wanna, can I?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Piggyback off of what Ruby was
Yes.
saying, I think she makes a point about, we as a task force, if these are adopted tonight, have done what we were tasked to do, and
Yes.
so it may be that we need to create another kind of working group, or divvy it out to existing committees to do, some of them are more directive like that, like which committee it would go to, but it may be that we need other volunteers to help out.
Okay. All right. How does the board want to handle this? Do you want to work out dates tonight? Do you want to put this on hold, consider it for next meeting, do a revision for next meeting? I think maybe, yes, Tim.
I would really want the board to vote on this. as it stands now. As Jessica said, if the date is undoable, and I don't think they are, we could adjust the dates. Establishing a task force can be done tonight, but I think the motion to accept this shouldn't be delayed.
Well then, task force to, comply with some of these deadlines on here. So how about a task force to work on some of these details?
Can we vote first and finish up the acceptance of the goal and then move on to directing or establishing who might do that?
We could do that, but then I'm voting on a date that I don't know who's doing the work. So I would abstain with that vote, quite frankly. I'm not gonna agree to something when I don't know who and the date is right upon us. So I'm about to put this to the back and move on. Tim,
To further this, I volunteered to be on that task force.
okay, all right, Tim.
I mean, in my opinion, the reason it's there is because everybody who was on the board goals offered up that they would do it. And so I think Tim was on there, I was on there, Jessica's on there, Kim. So the four of us have said, we believe it's important and therefore it should move forward. That does not behoove anyone else who's interested in this very different topical thing putting their hand forward. But in my opinion, if we don't vote on this now and we put it aside, we're not going to hit the marks that we put forward, which was an aggressive timeline.
Okay, so in keeping with the aggressive timeline, is this standing task force that completed this, it's excellent, the breakdown of these goals, sort of figuring out what the components are. So can this task force be reconstituted to, I'm seeing nods all around. Okay, that was easy. Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of this particular goal, number 2, having to do with DQS and EQS, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to the third one. Improving two-way communication and engagement with district stakeholders. Discussion.
There's just a mountain of evidence from AOE to the National School Boards Association, other organizations that show that the more the public and staff are engaged in school board business, the more effective, the better the district is.
Agreed. Any further discussion? Yes, Kim.
I move we accept the third goal, communications and community engagement, as the third goal for the WSESD school board.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All those in discussion, Jessica.
This may be out of place, but it has to do with community engagement, and I said I would mention it. The Dummerston School is having a ribbon cutting for their walking trail on Saturday, October 4th. So that's my plug at 10:30 if you want to come as board members to represent and say hello and see the new walking trail. That's an opportunity to be involved in the community.
Great, thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's great. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much, Jessica, Kim, Tim, and Ruby. Thank you for putting this together.
I would like to say that this is rather monumental for this school board. For years, we've been talking about board goals, but we never got there. and we finally got to it tonight. I'm just really delighted.
Yes, and thank you to Jessica for keeping us all on task and
Yep.
keeping us go online with the meetings and everything so that we presented in time.
I'll be in touch.
Oh,
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Who was that?
Thank you to Jessica.
that was
It's
some
Siri.
strange voice coming out of my phone. Golly, a little creepy. Yes.
I also just want to praise Jessica also. Thank you so much for your guidance and leadership there. I will say that in addition to the board goals task force, there are a number of times when the communications council and I think the programmatic and performance equity committees are kind of called into action. So if you're on those committees, just be forewarned that we're probably going to be making some movements towards setting some agendas in the coming months.
Okay, in keeping with view of the time and in keeping with a comment I made at the beginning of today's meeting, with board permission, I would like to delay any discussion of NEASC until the next meeting. Yes? Okay, I see agreement. All right, we are up to the administrative report.
Okay, there are no new hires or resignations or retirements to announce tonight. So we're very stable at the moment, and I think I shared at the previous meeting our new employee orientation in August was about a third of the percentage of new staff that we've had in prior years. So that's a really good sign in terms of stability and moving forward with not as much turnover that we certainly experienced, largely due to the COVID pandemic. At the last board meeting, I think there were some folks who signed up to work with myself, Bryn Tucker and Stacy Sawyer to collectively look at in close detail the notes from the admin board summer retreat in June, and then take those notes and align them into a board presentation calendar that also takes into account when certain things throughout the school year are taking place in terms of like when the climate survey is given, when the VCAP happens. So we met last week. I thought it was a very productive meeting. Not only did we discuss topics, we also discussed style of meetings and length of time for meetings, which was helpful because it feels like we really got on a similar page in terms of what those expectations are. So some of the highlights that we reviewed together was, is it okay to have protocols as part of a meeting to increase engagement of board members and administrators in smaller groups? And we were unclear whether that's something we could do, what the effect of that would be on Zoom, and definitely received the direction that is something we should be looking into, and it would be something to increase engagement during these presentations. And others who are part of the committee, feel free to jump in. Another thing we discussed was the time frame of presentations. And we landed on up to 35 minutes for our presentation, reserving 15 minutes for questions and discussion. Not that every presentation is going to be 35 minutes, but that's kind of the, we don't want to go further than 35 minutes. So coming to some agreements on that felt really good, and it provides more direction for school staff and administration in the development of these presentations. So I brought results of our work. I made enough copies, I think, for everybody here. You just go right around the room.
We also said that discussion of the presentation should take place in real time at that moment. There had been thoughts last year that, discussion could overflow, but 2 weeks later is a different, we're someplace different. So we really want it to be contained to that period of time.
So once these get filtered around, I'll just kind of walk us through this fairly quickly. One of the things that we added to the calendar this year is we've had in previous years aligned policies to presentations. We added a column that the board was just discussing, alignment to EQS standards. So you can see throughout the year as we present and work on different topics, you can see the actual EQS standards that are aligned to that topic. So I think that actually is very helpful for the board's work around that goal. And then again, identifying the policies that are related to the presentations. So on this calendar, the blue spaces, or purplish, blue I guess, are the SD topics. The green are SU topics. Again, this is based on largely our admin board retreat. Last night I had a Vernon board meeting. I did present this concept, and they're working towards identifying Vernon specific presentations tied to the concepts that we've developed here. So if we move forward with this, there's a SU board meeting tomorrow night. Figured I would invite Harley and Susan to give an update on food service. Moving forward in September for I'll just speak really to the SD. End of September, we would review our professional development plan and share that along with our Social Justice League standards that have been developed in monthly themes that we'll be working towards this year. You can see the SU focus on special education, multilingual learning. Moving forward, we would hold our first summit on the end of October. You can see the essential question that came out of the admin admin board retreat. But again, focus on CIP goals that we have developed and where we are. By that October date, the VTAP data scores should not be embargoed. They're still currently embargoed. So we're feeling fairly confident that we can include that data from last spring in the fall summit, and then related to our CIP goals. Again, every other meeting, presentation with board business, kind of like meetings like tonight. As we get into November, do an overview of our MLSS systems that we've been working towards the past 4+ years, and how that relates to our assessment toolkit that is we consistently update. And then for December, January, early February, we really reserved that time for budget development like we did last year. So we're not getting bogged down in presentations, but we can really be focused on developing a budget and an annual report for town meeting. Coming out of work around budget, we would have a mid-year summit in February. And the theme for that summit would be systems to support improving our graduation reports, our graduation rates. So clearly focusing on high school and career center initiatives, but also pre-K and pre-K through 8th grade. Board business worksheet meetings. SU, just to touch base, we would do a presentation on intensive services that we've developed throughout the years, and we have a new program this year at Oak Grove School. And also highlight our work around McKinney-Vento. So we invite our McKinney-Vento coordinator to present. Student climate would be end of March, which is tied to the time frame in the year of when we distribute the surveys and receive the data reports. Moving forward into April, at the SU level is related, of course, to the SD. We'd like to give an update on pre-K work we've been doing around developing pre-K in all of our schools at this point. End of April, looking at staff trends that we're noticing throughout the school year and data related to those trends. And then moving into May, I would give a presentation to the SU around supervision and evaluation for administrators and the teaching staff. We definitely developed some newer resources in the past year to guide that work that I would love to highlight. End of May, a focus on family engagement and all the different initiatives and work that we've done around family engagement and feedback that we've received. Bringing us to the final summit, which would be a review of how we basically did on our CIP goals that we've established for this school year using the most up-to-date data that we've collected throughout our benchmarking and progress monitoring system that we have in place. Of course, the VCAP results, if true to this year, would be released to us over the summer, and then the embargo would be lifted in early fall. So we wouldn't have that for the summit. So that's a brief overview. Those are the highlights. Again, this is from feedback from this board, mostly around, what you would like to see in terms of the development of these presentations and opportunities to engage. And then, of course, the major goal of the June admin board retreat. So, I think it's a comprehensive work plan, and I appreciate the folks who dedicated a couple of hours last week to really dig into this and create, I hope, some clarity for how we're moving better, how we're moving forward and improving this work.
Yeah.
I just wanted to call out to people, excuse me, because February is such a short month, and we have a meeting with all of the boards on Monday, 2/9. We had to move our SD meeting to the following week, the 17th, so that way we weren't back to back with those large meetings. And we only have one meeting that month because we also have February break. So just calling that out to everybody, so your date's a little different.
Thank you. Tim?
First, the notes from that meeting that I definitely had to miss were really great. Sounded like a really good meeting. We just got this on Sunday night, and I appreciate the work put into this. This I see as a really great concrete beginning, but I still see it as a draft. I haven't, speak for myself, haven't had time to really digest it. We just passed 3 board goals, which I think should align with this as much as possible. So I would hope that this is a draft, and at the next board meeting we would have further discussion about tweaks, changes to it.
So the intention was that this was not a draft, that we identified committee members to do this work and to present that tonight. As we left that meeting, that planning meeting, the question was, what if there are some other ideas that come up from within the committee based on, further analysis? And so we talked about, we'll email that feedback, and if I receive feedback, if me or Bryn receive feedback, we'll adjust. But that if there is no feedback, then we will assume this is how we're moving forward. So that was the nature of how we closed the meeting last week.
That, I just want to qualify that a little bit, because that was to the member, the individuals sitting in the room at that time. I appreciate Tim's remark that this was received Sunday night, it went out Monday to the board. So there's been very little time to sort of dig into it. Ruby.
I think, in my opinion, this planning calendar is a tool that our administration uses to support all of the planning that goes into giving presentations to us. And so I think they need this tool and need to move forward with it. The dates are now, that's when it starts. And so from my perspective, there was a lot of good work, a lot of collaboration that went into the creation of this. And in keeping with what we hear quite a bit from central office staff and admin, this is it's not meant to be, it's done, it's never touched again. Mm-hmm. And so, whether we think of it as a living document or something that is responsive and iterative, all of those are concepts that I think we hear repeatedly. So from my perspective, it really makes sense to if we need to accept this to move forward, I think we should do that. And then continue to think. And if you do have thoughts, and from my thinking, the board goals work that's happened, I think that it would make sense for us as a board to add a column that aligns with the board goals, so that we as a board know when that board work is going to arise, and put some deadlines in there that really don't have that much to do with the admin's work but have to do with the board's work. And that's I think that's an appropriate change, but it does not, it behooves us to actually start somewhere and accept it as it is and then move forward.
I like the idea of adding a column. Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Other comment? Okay, Tim.
Yeah, again, this is a great, to me, concrete beginning. But it's a board meeting planning calendar. And so it's rather important. This is how we focus our time throughout the whole year. It's a pretty important document to the entire board. I just wasn't under the impression that the group that met would be making decisions for the entire board. I think something that impacts every member of the board should be discussed by the board. One example, for example, maybe your idea, Ruby, would fix this, but family engagement, that's on the last page in May. And family engagement is certainly part of the goal that we just talked about, two-way communication with families and community and staff. Our plan, I don't think, had it in mind that this would be put off till May, but it would be something that we work on throughout the year, which would involve something happening early on in the year and not back in May. That's a kind of change that I'm talking about in aligning board goals with the admin goals.
So when I was looking at this just now, I thought the same thing. The problem is, how do you move it up when you take something out and move it down?
Yep.
Which is as critical. And it's almost as if there's a lot that needs to take place. I do want to go back to the fact that this is a board planning calendar, and that we need some time to dig into this. We have a meeting coming up on the 23rd. I appreciate that. I don't think anybody's going to be bumped in terms of the workload that they're doing. Your key people on the administrative side. So I think we need to return to this on the 23rd and dig in a bit. Brian.
Thank you. I'm very happy with this. It's very concrete, and I can appreciate the time and energy and effort and thought that goes into putting together something for as many months and as many weeks, and in the detail that we have here. And I think one solution to what Tim is raising might be to add another column for our own goals, but I think there's also, I see a lot of spaces here where it says board business, or it says board work. And to me, those would be great opportunities to slip in some of the work around our goals specifically. And there's no reason we can't do that. I also would say my own calendar is something that I look at probably several times every day, even though I don't have that much going on, and things change. And there's always an opportunity to adjust things when new things come up. And I'm sure that to some extent can happen with this calendar, but to have something in hand right now that people can start working on and we can start anticipating, I think would be really good.
I don't see that that either point of view negates the other. I don't see that at all. Bryn, you had your hand up. Ruby, do you mind?
No.
Okay, Bryn.
I just wanted to add to the conversation, I think you referenced it a little bit, Mark, but a lot of these topics, and I hope they look familiar to folks, were developed from the facilitated session that we had on June 24th, where everyone, the 40 people or so who were at that meeting, had an opportunity to really think about and categorize different questions, different data inputs that were important to the work. And so what we're looking at here wasn't something that the committee made up. These were coming directly from our collective work way back in June, which is a while ago now. And then I think the other piece in terms of, the order and where do you slot different things, we had taken a look at overall the local common assessment system, which were some of the main pieces of these data inputs to identify, okay, so if we have the data back from this piece at this point in the year, then it would make sense to potentially, a little bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So I just wanted to add those couple things behind the scenes that might be important to point out in terms of that development. And I would just say from the administrative perspective, I really appreciate the opportunity and the awareness of how busy things are and how much we want to be in schools supporting teachers and students. And so having a clear schedule right from the beginning allows us to do that. Just like a teacher with a syllabus that might always change a little bit, that you have a clear vision of where we're going.
Ruby?
I think that I just wanted to kind of respond to the comment about there are two kind of approaches here, and one is accept you consider what has been put forward and accept it, or put it aside and dig into it later. And I do think those things, one negates the other. I think we need to acknowledge that what we've been asked is to consider this and act on it today, in large part because, as Bryn has mentioned, the administration is looking to this as their primary tool. And I think that I don't think saying, yeah, let's use this means that we can't continue to work on it. I think we need to continue to work on it. We just, had the board goals that I think really, really are gonna tie in, and we need to do that work. So I would really, I really think we should not be delaying our consideration of this.
And by consideration, you mean motion?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Jessica?
Thank you. I am a planner myself. I love a plan and a calendar, and I was thinking through perhaps we could compromise and the first few sessions are in the next couple months, and then the rest, a large chunk of it is reserved for budget work, so I'm wondering if we can approve it through the end of the calendar year, even through the end of the budget year, and then, we don't have to wait until March to consider it again, but if folks are worried, we approve half of it or whatever, and then come back to it when we've had more of a chance.
I still see the two ideas coming together in close order. We're not putting it off. I am perfectly comfortable with the motion this evening. I'm also, in keeping with the motion this evening, very comfortable with continuing the discussion on the 23rd, which is in 2 weeks' time. And seeing if something really pops out that needs to be tweaked. Tim?
2 questions. First, what is the motion?
There is no motion
Okay,
on the floor.
okay,
That was a hypothetical.
okay. Second, this is semantics, I know, but it's important to me. This is all board work, and having saying that Tuesday, 8/9/25 is board work. Well, food service overview and professional development, this is all board work. It's not like there's administrative work and there's board work. This is all board work.
Okay, excuse me, just wait 1 second. Excuse me, it was a semantic point, and it's about the blue box saying board work, when the whole thing represents board work. I really want to move away from that nature of discussion, especially this evening. I think it goes contrary to where we are right now. Semantics are semantics. The group of us worked very hard and long on this. And so for it to say board work, whatever you wanted to say, that can be tweaked. That's not about where the presentations are, okay, on a calendar. And I think that's where I want to stay. So how do you want to deal with that, with this issue this evening? Jocelyn, I just want you to both know, now, because I've said something, but anyway.
I'd like
Jocelyn.
to make a motion we adopt the calendar.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Wow, thank you. Okay. Mark, I'm sorry, Bryn,
I'm
yes.
probably out of turn here. I just wanted to, because I have the calendar up to edit as we go, and I just want to say I appreciate that idea that this is all board work, and I think that's important. Would the board feel comfortable making an edit on this where it says board work to just say open? Or agenda TBD in the,
I think we can move on.
okay.
Yeah, I think we can move on. Open to
Or just
what?
delete, I'll just delete the words, yeah.
Okay, before we move on, Ruby.
Well, I was just hoping that there was an easy way for particularly whether it's the board goals committee or what task force or some for us to have access to the electronic one in terms of those things we discussed.
Great, thank you. Okay, anything else, Mark?
Not for me.
I think a lot has happened this evening, both in terms of board goals. Major kudos to the group that put that together. I also want to thank everyone who worked on this board calendar. It was active engagement. We really dug in and we isolated the essential issues in that meeting. So I want to thank the organizers of that meeting, Bryn and Stacy Sawyer, and all of us who came together as admin and board members. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Are we, we're at fiscal?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And forgive me for no, I don't have to apologize. It's board work.
Oh.
Okay. I think Ruby asked that I kind of summarize the work of the Finance Committee meeting that was conducted yesterday at 5. The agenda was shared with the board and all the documents are on the website. The agenda was a little deeper dive into the preliminary fiscal results of 2025, just a couple of months ago now in June of 2025. And then the kind of the annual audit, the CPA audit, the scope of work that's underway right now, sort of getting into the rules of the road and why it matters, and the work that the central office folks are engaged in now to keep us on track in the fiscal business. So, quick overview, and committee members, there's 5 of you at that meeting, so about half the crew here. I'll go quickly, and please jump in as you wish. The fiscal overview, again, big picture, we had projected a $1.4 million fund balance in our annual report and had that conversation with our public. As of a forecast as of June 2025, we actually ended with a $2.2 million fund balance, about nearly $800,000 favorable. That went back to that understanding that we had with our public at the annual meeting. And that is a result of the legislature rescinding the law that we built the budgets on across the state 2 weeks before town meeting. And then we had to scramble with contingency plans, which included freezing spending. Our principals did a good job in working collaboratively, looking at student needs, of course, first, but also looking at the resources and the constraints that the legislature were imposing on us. So that was the overview. From there, we went to kind of an orientation on making sure we can navigate the road ahead, which is right around the corner, budget development, and that is being able to decipher the very detailed, about 100 pages of budget line items that are organized around the chart of accounts that the state of Vermont requires us to use. So we revisited some of the definitions that help finance and any reader find what they're looking for in the detail report. We reiterated, our annual report is organized on one page, the whole system, $67 million budget. and then we organize it on a detail level at a 11-page format so that everybody sees each school, local funding, federal and state funding, we differentiate between the local share and the grant-funded share, so we review those details and resources, again, that are on the website as reference documents. So that was the first half of our meeting. The second half was turning to audit, and we began by discussing the engagement letter, the audit firm's fees, and then what that entails. There's both a regular audit. It is of all three entities, the SU, the SD, and Vernon. And then there's something called a single audit for any district in the state that receives more than $1 million. Basically have two audits for each entity that has received the $1 million or more. So we went over the kind of the rules of the road on both sides, what the audit company is obliged to conduct in terms of their work, and then what we have to deliver as a business office team at the central office. Work starts for the audit in March of 2025, even though it's in advance of the fiscal year end in June, and we expect to see an audit report in November, and this would be for the fiscal year ending June of 2025. That information is very important as we roll it into the annual report and we look at our solvency. We look at our difference between what we own and what we owe. That's the balance sheet. The difference is equity, or what we call fund balance. And as I started the conversation, we are in a sound fiscal condition in all of our funds, in all of our entities. A little bit more about just procedure. We got into not only is it just about looking over the shoulder of the business office, how do we capture information, how do we record it, how do we share it, but it's also what are your cybersecurity protocols, how are you protecting your data, how do you manage potential fraud, what systems do you have in place to be sure that your financial statements are actually recording accurate information. So we looked a little bit about internal control protocols. I shared a couple of spreadsheets. They're each one of them is about 300 lines of data. It's a question: who does what, when? How do you know that there's integrity in your process, and so on. So that's the internal control review. We also mentioned that how important it is that the board follows the internal control procedures as well. So that was a useful discussion. I think that's about all the topics. Anything else folks want to add?
Just a reminder that any purchases, any interest in purchasing anything for board use, please alert me, but more importantly, go through MoHarch. Do not do it on your own. It's just too complicated, and we definitely do not use Amazon. So, but again, it doesn't matter what we use because it goes through MoHarch.
Right.
And I really think that's all that we need.
Which means it means you fill out a requisition like everybody does in this system that says, why do you need your product? Who are you doing business with? How much is it going to cost? You need an account number, and then an approval from Deborah.
Can I also say, I appreciate what Frank Rucker just said, go through MoHarch. She fills out that green sheet of paper, which then becomes yellow, which then becomes white. I do believe. I think whatever the colors are, but there's a whole color sequence.
If it's a reimbursement, it's just that nice green sheet.
Oh my God, Frank. Frank. It goes through Mo Park. That's my response to the detail of procurement. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, yes.
I have a question. This may be too in the weeds, and it may be because I'm a little new, but I'm looking at the general fund report on page 2 of the summary that you sent over. I'm looking at the revenue. So we got more than we expected from the state, if I'm reading that correctly, and then we had a 89% shortfall on other revenue and a 13% shortfall on local revenue. I'm just curious, kind of the story behind those numbers.
Yes. And of course the magnitude is what matters. The percentage, as you know, isn't. It may be a large percentage, but if it's an immaterial amount, then it's not significant in terms of the fund balance. I'm not sure which document you're looking at.
It's the 6/30/25 preliminary SD summary.
And was that what we shared at the board meeting on August 26th?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just pull that up so I'm on the same page you are, and then we can answer your question. Okay. Yeah. So you're looking at the 5 categories of revenue, and your question was on which line?
In the 500 or 5,000 category and the 1,000 category. So those are, we were expecting 684,000 on the 5,000 line, and then the receivables are 71,000. Is that, am I reading that right?
The year to date, the 71,000 is what we actually received.
Right.
Yeah, not receivable, but actually received as of June 30. Yeah, great questions. So in the local revenue, vast majority of that is tuition income.
Okay.
We have seen decline in enrollment, but it's unfortunately statewide, and it's also within our own system. So it's definitely a negative impact, but that's the primary shortage.
Okay.
The 5,000s are other, meaning it's not local money, meaning primarily tuition or interest income or those sort of local revenues. Other is not subgrants. Subgrants are primarily the Title I monies that flow through from the supervisory union to the SD. So that's the majority of subgrants. Other is not the state line. State line is our primary, as you can see, out of 63 million, 57 million is the state block grant, basically. It also includes a substantial amount of money from the career and technical ed division of the agency, that about 2 million. So the other is our least consistent funding source, and that would be things like donations or a special use of a reserve. And in this case, the variance there, having received 71,000 out of a $680,000 proposal, was primarily we did not need to use the extent of the reserves that we thought we may need back in it would have been a year earlier. It would have been the March prior to June, so a year and 3 months. That was our forecast. Because of our favorable variance in expenditures, we didn't need to draw on the reserve as heavily.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We are up to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, that passes. We are up to unfinished business. Policy and amendment presents for a second reading D12, prevention of harassment of employees. E19, behavior threat assessment teams. F37, district equity policy, and G13, responsible computer network and internet use. This is for a second reading. Any comments, please send it to the policy committee. Any one of us, any board member, it will get to Ann Beekman and to Deborah Stanford. Is there any other business before this board this evening?
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, there is a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? We are adjourned at 8:30 this evening. 8:30. So I think we can stop the recording.